how did even Nebraska even come into picture?
I'm sure you know Larry Young.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't. Larry Young, our senior year, was one of the top running backs in the country.
Yeah. Welcome to the Look Like Somebody podcast. I'm your host, Ricky C. Simmons. Before we get started, man, I need y'all to hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so we can get this message out there. You know, I really do my best to try to bring you information that is a little entertaining, maybe a little controversial, but I really want people to understand that this is about my guests. And I go out and find guests that I can hopefully enlighten you, and especially for people that are, let's just say, for example, it's well documented I don't talk sports very much, but today we're going to vary off a little bit and we're going to talk sports because this is really important that I get. It's like a big brother. My guest today is like my big brother, so I definitely got to show him some love. And I want him to tell y'all some things that you might not have been privileged to know. So with that being said, Coach Tony Samuel, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Great to be here.
Well, I want to say, first of all, man, thank you for taking time because I know you were here, you know, under some tight circumstances, some difficult circumstances, but you made time for me. But, Coach, I just want to be honest with you, man. This show is about you, so I want you to go back. I want everybody else to know what I know.
Okay.
So let's go back. Where is Coach Samuels from? I'm going to call you Coach Samuels, even though you're my big brother.
That's new. You're going to actually call me Coach Sam.
I'm going to call you, yeah. I usually call you T. Sam, but everybody out here know you as Coach Sam, so I'm going to fall in line with everybody else today.
Okay.
Where are you from, Coach?
Well, I was born in a country called Trinidad and Tobago, which is the southernmost part of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
And that was a long time ago. I lived there for 10 years.
Okay. And then you...
And then at 10 years old, we moved to Jersey City, New Jersey. The first of many culture shocks in my life.
Jersey City, New Jersey. Yeah. I got people from Jersey City, New Jersey.
We got a lot of people out here from Jersey City.
Yeah, well, I had a guest not too long ago that was really from Jersey City. But go ahead, Coach.
Oh, yeah. And 7 years later, I graduated high school and came out here to play football.
Okay.
In Nebraska. Oh, yeah.
Jersey City to Nebraska. That's quite a change.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first change is Trinidad and Tobago to Jersey City.
Right,
yeah,
right.
That was the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So
I lived on an island. The part of the island we lived on, there were only 2 houses down there. I lived about 200 yards from the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And swam every day and ran up this big hill every day just for fun. Didn't know I was actually getting in shape.
Now, I know you said you were there for the first 10 years of life, right? Mm-hmm. Was sports even on your radar?
Sports was on my radar, but there were different sports.
Gotcha.
So and remember, well, we didn't have all this technology and TV and all that. We had the majority of people at that point didn't have televisions in their homes.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't have access to a lot of information.
Okay.
And so the sports I was playing back then were soccer, which we called football.
Okay.
And cricket, which is a very British Commonwealth type of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I don't know nothing about cricket.
You don't know anything about cricket. It's the closest thing to baseball to try and describe to someone that's not familiar with. But it's really not baseball.
I got
the ball's about the same size. That's about it. A little softer.
Man, and then you come to Jersey City.
Yeah.
Now, that had to be culture shock, to say the least.
Absolutely total culture shock. I came from a very private place. Now, the island has some really cool cities and all that. Mm-hmm. We lived in the second largest city on the island of Trinidad.
Oh, okay.
And but we lived in a remote part of the city.
Ah, got you.
So then when we moved to Jersey City, we moved into a 5-building apartment complex, those big brick buildings, and hundreds and hundreds of people. And when I lived on the third floor, which was the top floor, and we were able to look across from my bedroom window, 5 miles across to the east was the skyline of New York City.
Wow. Okay.
And so imagine, I'll even go further. We landed in Kennedy Airport, and to get to Jersey City, you have to drive right through New York City. And and of course, my mom took us on a detour through Lower Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
And then the first thing we did after that, now we have to drive under the Hudson River to get to Jersey City, under those tunnels.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that, never heard about it. And the first time hearing about it was when they said, oh, by the way, we're driving under the river. Oh.
That's a misunderstanding, to say the least.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now, when you got to Jersey City, you're what, 10 years old, 11 years old?
10 years old.
And I'm trying to figure out how football even came about, because if you've never played it, I mean, how did that happen? You just went outdoors and just met some people and start picking the game?
That's the beauty of where we lived. It's a pretty good size apartments complex.
Okay.
And in the middle of them, they had an area called the Circle.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
where it wasn't necessarily a playground, but the playground was in the back. But that's where all the kids played. It was big enough to play games and run. It was paved, so they taught me punch ball, which was all the rules of baseball.
Punch ball. Never heard that.
It's
either.
just a Spalding ball.
Okay.
And just picture it as baseball with little kids. And so that was the first exposure. I didn't know. They said go to first base. I said, what's first base and where is it?
So you learning on the fly.
On the fly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And then football, I didn't even play organized football until I was in high school, 9th grade.
Really?
Yeah, we played. First, I had to learn how the rules of football was, and then we played a version, the old tackle football, where we started out playing tag football. By the time we were in 7th grade, we were playing tackle football.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first time I played organized was my freshman year in high school.
Wow. So I
didn't even know how to put the equipment on. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not laughing at you, but it's kind of funny because, growing up here, I always knew that. You know what I mean? From the 5th grade on, we was playing in pads.
Yeah.
So you come here, you're a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And you learning how to put your equipment on.
Put the equipment on, and that youthful pride.
Oh, yeah.
I was the last one out of the locker room because I didn't want to ask anybody. So if you're sitting there, I'd watch the guy put the pants on. So I put the pants on like that.
Yeah.
And then the shoulder pads, okay, I do that. And he put the helmet on, and then I got it on, and they had to help me pull the jersey on over the shoulder.
Yeah, right.
And then I went outside, put the helmet on, and the coaches adjusted me.
Gotcha.
I had no idea.
Well, when you started playing, I mean, did you like it right off the top, or was it kind of?
I loved it right off the top.
Really?
Playing tackle football in the yard in the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
Because that was a beautiful release.
Yeah.
I never played a sport where you can just come off and just light somebody up. that felt good.
Yeah. That's a black shirt for you right there. A black shirt in the making.
Yeah.
Now, you went through high school, and apparently you had to have some success, though, Coach. Because, I mean, you don't just go from Jersey City to Nebraska, because at that time, Nebraska was a pretty well-known program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, your high school career must have been somewhat successful.
Well, it started out really slow. As a freshman, for my size, I was one of the fastest kids on the freshman team.
Okay.
So the coaches immediately thought I should be a running back. Well, I don't even know how to take a handoff. I don't know, none of that.
Yeah. You said that ain't what you do, huh?
Yeah. So they had me play. They kept playing me at running back, but they also played me at defensive end.
Oh, gotcha.
And once I went on that defensive side, now you can go, see ball, get ball.
Yeah, right.
And I was really fast for my size.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I made my hay. played on the freshman team, and then played a fair amount. Started a few games on as a sophomore, and I've got an older brother. He was a class ahead of me, and my brother was an exceptional athlete. My brother we went to St. Peter's prep school.
Okay.
For the first my first 2 years, his 3 years of high school, and he was a starting corner on the varsity as a freshman.
Oh wow, wow.
Wow. So when I came along, I'm a year behind him, and we're built differently. I'm a lot bigger, and I was actually faster than him. And all that, but he was way more athletic than me. He was really, really good. And so they were expecting little brother to come in and step in just like him. So I played a lot as a sophomore, and then we both transferred to Lincoln High School, which is the public school, about 5-minute walk from the house.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
By the time I got there, I was ready.
Gotcha.
And that's when I made my hay.
So at Lincoln High School, that's where you got your name. So how did Nebraska even come into picture?
I'm sure you know Larry Young.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't. Larry Young, our senior year, was one of the top running backs in the country.
Wow.
And again, the technology wasn't the same. The recruiting wasn't the same. Coaches back then came into an area, they grabbed film, you mailed the film 2 years, a slow process. They didn't have these fancy recruiting lists and with stars and all that.
Right.
And so people came in looking for Larry. Coaches would come in looking for Larry, and the pattern back then was you come in, you go back in the coach's office, and sometimes you spend a whole day if you're going to the right place with good film.
Right.
And they'll make their list on people that's not nationally known.
Yes.
So everybody came to see Larry, and then they found me on the film.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you end up, after high school, you show up in Lincoln.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Culture shock again.
Man, it sounds like we got a pattern going here. Culture shock from the islands all the way to Jersey City, and now another culture shock.
Yeah, you come from New York area, that's called the concrete jungle.
Right.
So it fits its title.
Right.
And then we came out here, and now all of a sudden it's slowed back down. And I want to say Lincoln was about 120, 150,000 people now. By now, I understand it's doubled.
Yeah, it's more like, a couple hundred grand.
And the culture was different. The people were different. The racial makeup was different. Where I grew up, it was a complete mix of all cultures in the Jersey City area,
Right.
And so all that was different. And the clothing was different. What they call certain foods were different. They used a lot less spice than I'm used to coming from the Caribbean.
Right.
But everybody was cool. And I came here with the idea to see what this college football was like. So as you know, since you played, we were very busy and our time was taken.
It wasn't a whole lot of downtime.
Yeah,
you had to earn your spot. And see, and that's something else too. You end up having a very successful career in Nebraska, and then after Nebraska, you went to the league.
Yeah.
And when you were done with the league, you showed back up in Lincoln.
Yeah.
I remember because I think that's one time I was showing up.
You showed up the same time I came back.
Yeah.
I actually came back a little late for fall camp because we were released really late. I was with the Saints, and we released late.
Yeah.
So I came back. I think you guys were maybe 2 weeks in practice when I came in.
Yep, because I was on a freshman team.
Yeah.
I remember you showed up, and you didn't come across as friendly neither. I mean, you was kind of a stone, straight-faced guy, and so we looked at you kind of like, don't mess with that dude, man. Later found out one of the coolest people that ever lived, but right away I admit that I was a little like, I better keep an eye on that guy.
Yeah.
But, once you started coaching us and the way you was relating to the players, I knew it was something that you had a knack for because you did some things and you would talk to us in a way to where we could relate. Sometimes, yelling ain't always the way to get our attention. You know,
yeah.
And you came in and you was real cool about it, because I remember a few times you pull a person to the side. Hey man, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me talk to you. And look here, this is what you need to do. This is what you got to do. And it made sense because you didn't, in our minds, you didn't put us on blast. You know?
Oh no, that was not my personality.
No, now don't get me wrong. You was stern, but it was one-on-one stern.
Yeah.
A lot of the coaches at that time, they let the whole field, the whole team know when you made a mistake.
Yes.
You know, and I always admired that about you, because I just thought, you know, it's kind of like that old saying in the South, you know, you get more with sugar than you do.
Of course.
So you always had a way with words and a way with people. And I think that kind of laid the foundation for what I call a very, very extensive, successful career. And I want to switch to that now. Now, this coaching thing, you start off as a GA, is that right?
Started as a GA. Actually, old George Darlington was my position coach.
Right, Coach Darlington.
As soon as I got released, the first person I talked to was George. He said, well, Tony, you know you have to come back and get your degree. You're a couple credits short, and you might want to get into coaching. I think they knew it before I did, to be quite honest with you, that I had the potential to be a coach.
Wow.
Because they knew me since I was 17 years old.
Right,
George was the only position coach that I had in college. And the year I came and you came was the year George came to Nebraska. That was his first year as well.
Well, see, I didn't know that. Yeah, okay.
So we all were neophytes. So, and so George was, he watched me develop, and I watched his teaching style develop and change as well. Because as you know, I've always sat back, and I have a tendency to look at everything. I watch people move. I always try to pick a place in the room where I can see everything going on. I watch the coaches that way, and that became my coaching style as well. So I try to watch guys like you were talking about. I try to watch people when they weren't watching me.
Yeah.
And so they weren't trying to. They weren't even trying to impress me because they didn't know I was watching them.
Right.
And then I approached them from there.
Now, how long were you a grad assistant?
I took a while.
Yeah.
So when I came back, my plan was I'm taking one class because I want to see what this coaching's like. I'm not trying to graduate in a hurry.
Right, I got you.
And back then, we had a little leeway like that.
Yeah.
And I also worked on the side to make some money, took a class, make a little money, go down and watch practice, work the practice game, sneak over into the football office and sneak into a coach's office, offense, defense, Coach Pettibone, and just pick their brain.
Yeah, got you.
You know, in season, I'd sit, wouldn't say a word. We had a GA's office. I'd come in, I'd sit back there and help some of the guys with the GA work, and then I'd sneak off and go get my little work, get my couple dollars.
Gotcha.
And take a class. So I did that, and then later on, we had a position called a part-time position, which I don't even think exists now. The rules are so completely different.
Yeah, they didn't change everything.
So then I became part-time. And by then, I started coaching. I coached with George for a while, and I coached the defensive ends. And then I went and helped with Charlie McBride.
Oh, Coach McBride.
The scientist.
Yeah,
He's a technique scientist.
Yeah, that's a special man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He was something special.
Yeah, and he got results.
Yeah. And personality-wise, I would venture to say Charlie and I were really close to being polar opposites.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because, he wasn't nothing low-key about him.
Yeah. But I learned how to work with people from him because a lot of people don't realize how observant Charlie was. And he watched people the same way I watched them. But I was watching him do it at a much higher level than I was able to do.
Gotcha.
So I learned a lot of things from him, from technique. And I literally went to office, just learning. They didn't even realize I was even in there paying attention. But during recruiting, for instance, guys are watching film. You know, you used to get hundreds and hundreds of high school film in.
Yeah.
and I would just go sit Coach Corrigan.
Yep.
He knew how to evaluate talent. So he'd be watching. I go sit right in the back of his office, not say boo. and when I went in, I don't know if he did it all the time, but when I went in, I think he knew I was in there. So he'd talk about this. You see, look at that kid right there. Look at how many strides he took. He's probably 4.5, and he'd come off really accurate based if, like say, with your speed, if you broke out on a big run, he'd count how many steps you took between the 5-yard intervals, and he'd give you a real good idea on how fast you were.
Huh. Yeah, because I remember coming. I think he was. One day, my Lincoln parent, we had a program called the Lincoln Parent Program. My Lincoln parent came up there, and he goes, and he asked Coach Corrigan, he goes, what do you think about that Simmons kid? Coach Corrigan, he ain't big on giving you too many compliments. He's fast as all get out. That's all he said. My Lincoln parent was real impressed with that because Coach Corrigan was not known for that. But, I was sitting there thinking, too, while you taking in all this information, you basically was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like to me you were basically building your coaching platform. Is that what you were doing?
I was, but I wasn't actually doing it consciously.
Right.
That's just the way I am.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
I can't help but look at people and watch their personalities and read their body language, and if I'm in it, I want to know. Keep in mind now, when I first started football, every single thing was new to me. Right.
Yeah.
And so part of the style of my coaching and everything I do in life is I'm an observer, and I'm really, for me to be speaking a lot back in those days, especially publicly.
Yeah.
Sometimes that took an act of Congress.
Yeah, because like I said, you just had this straight face all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you was present, but you weren't very vocal. You were just kind of observing.
But I always prided myself in being away from the mix to see. But as you can tell, and you know, I was always approachable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, one of the easiest coaches that I ever had to approach was you and Dollar Bill. Yep, Dollar Bill the same way. He'd be, come on, young brother, let me talk to you.
Come here.
Yeah, and to me, when you start that when you approach people with that style, it's easier for them to relax and listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But if you come in here, like hair is on fire. Yeah. Hey man, wait a minute. I hear you, man, but your message is getting lost in the presentation.
You turned your volume on.
Yeah. I'm like, hey man, wait a minute now. This ain't the only school in the world now. We're gonna do it like that. Might be time to part ways.
Yeah.
But no, you guys will. And see, I think what helped, and I'm gonna speak for myself. What helped me, and I know it helped Nate. Rest in peace, Nate Mason, but that was my roomie, and we went to high school together. But Nate, we would sit in the room, and and we always appreciated that, because it was a culture shock coming from Greenville, Texas, to Nebraska too.
Absolutely.
I mean, I ain't really trying to do no snow, man. Texas, we don't get much snow. If it just fall, it's like a crisis.
Yeah.
You don't even have to stick. So when we got here and this stuff is piling up for like 2 and 3 feet, man, we was having some issues, so it was really nice to know that there was you, Dollar Bill, that we could kind of go and talk to other than somebody in our same age group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody that's been there and done that. I'm like, man, it's like we picking y'all brain, like, man, how'd y'all do this?
Yeah.
And that was always very helpful because in the dorm room, especially that freshman year, man, I heard a lot of they always telling me, man, you know what? I think I messed up. I'm like, what do you mean? Man, I should have went to Baylor. I'm like, no, man. I wanted to go to OU, dog, but, man, we here now.
Here.
So, and it's too cold to be sitting on the bench, so we got to get on, we got to do something to get some playing time, man.
That's exactly
but
right.
you guys were very instrumental in laying the foundation for us. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to publicly say that to you because a lot of time we tell people in private or we try to tell them after the fact.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put it on the record, man, that you had a big, big impact on me and Nate's life. You and, like I said, Dollar Bill and the other coaches, eventually after we got a little more accustomed, then we adjusted because Coach Solich was our head freshman coach, and we got to where we could talk to him, But boy, initially coming from the South, and we looking at everything sideways because first of all we're out of our element and we're kids. Now, Coach, did you end up being a coach in Nebraska? Was that next, or did you leave?
No, I left. So just about when I was given that part-time position, which was a big, big deal back then, especially for me. And by the time I got into the part-time thing, I was also taking a class or two for my master's program.
Oh, okay.
And, it was one of those things. I was hanging out with Charlie McBride, of course. He said, come on down here.
Yeah.
I've got a guy that you're going on Friday. I think it was on a Wednesday. He says, I got you an interview. Okay, Charlie.
Charlie working his magic behind the scenes.
So he had an interview for me to Western Michigan University.
Oh, okay.
And so by then, all the things I was doing, building up to getting a position, was coming to fruition. I learned from Charlie. I learned from George. I learned from the training staff. I used to go sit in the equipment room, and a lot of people don't realize you can get a lot of scuttlebutt sitting in that equipment room.
Yeah.
And because they know body language too. A guy coming, he could throw his bag the wrong way, and you can see something's wrong with him. And an equipment guy would tell you, hey, you might want to go see so-and-so. What's up? Didn't look right today.
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And so right around the part-time position, maybe a year into going into the part-time, that's when I said, you know what? This looks like I'm going to go and do some Division I football.
Wow. Okay.
And Charlie got me first to that job at Western Michigan University. I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
And then a guy on the staff he was a GA at Stanford University, and he came and he was an offensive line coach at Western Michigan University.
Ah, gotcha.
And he goes, there's a job opening at Stanford University. You ought to take a look at that.
Really? Okay.
So, did my resume. Back in those days, you had to mail the resume.
Yeah.
It takes forever.
Yeah. Snail mail, they call it.
Yeah, real snail mail. So in the meantime, I called Coach Osborne. He probably doesn't even remember this, but he probably does.
Coach. Coach don't forget much.
But I said, Coach, I sent the resume down to Stanford, and they're flying me in for an interview. You mind giving them a call? Well, Tony, I've already spoken to Stanford.
Yeah, he ahead of the game already.
Way ahead, always. Have you ever known when he wasn't ahead of the game?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, yeah.
I give him credit for that because he would always be I remember him from having a meeting before the meeting, and that what I mean by that is just for as recruiting. I never talked to Coach Osborne during recruiting. When I talked to Coach Osborne, it was already a done deal because he had already talked to the parents. He wasn't that guy. He didn't waste a lot of time with the player.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't with me anyway. But anyway, go ahead. Now so you went to Stanford?
Yeah, I went to Stanford, and I coached there for 2 years.
Okay.
Coached defensive line, both places.
Okay.
And very fortunately, both places I went had really good defensive linemen. And of course, I came from Charlie McBride. I showed up with some
right
with a pocket full of technique.
Yeah.
And I combined that with my personality, and I've never really changed. And so I get to Stanford for 2 years, and Gene Huey,
Coach Huey,
he calls me up. Tony, what you doing? Yeah, I'm just sitting here. He said, I got Tom on the phone. He wants to talk to you. Tom who? What do you mean you got Tom on the phone? And he said, he put me on the phone. I said, hey, Coach, well, Tony, if there's an opening here, and it looks like if you want to, you'll be coming back. Yeah, so I left, and 4 years later, I came back. 1986.
Okay.
And George Darlington, who was my position coach, coaching the defensive ends, outside linebackers, he moved to the secondary, and I moved into the outside backers. But we called them defensive ends back then.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So now, when you came back to Nebraska, that had to be kind of like full circle moment.
Oh, full-blown full circle moment.
Yeah, okay, because I know Stanford was a good school. I'm not knocking that, but to actually come back to where you played and be a full-time coach.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, though, man? I mean, because...
going home is going home.
Right.
First, you have to define home.
Yeah.
And that was home for a lot of years, and that's where I really grew in. I came here at 17 years old, and then I came back, to coach.
Now, when you came back, how long did you actually coach at Nebraska?
For total, full time?
Yeah.
11 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you guys had a lot of success too, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's all in how you gauge it. Once upon a time, a 10-2 record, they wanted to know what was wrong with it.
Yeah. 10-2 almost might have people looking at like maybe we need to replace something.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
And especially after what we've experienced, recently. So I'm hoping that we get back to that. But during your 11 years, what kind of records did y'all have? I mean.
Well, our worst record was 9-3, and 9-3 back in those days. And I'm just stating facts.
Yeah,
9-3 in those days was a borderline failure.
Yeah. Oh, I can totally. Yeah, I can relate to that because if you ain't playing for it all,
it's a failure.
It's a failure.
Yeah.
But and for people that don't, I would say not. I'm gonna say the youth. More so, that wasn't even born. Mm-hmm. If you were born after 2000, you don't even understand that.
Yeah.
That concept.
Yeah.
And that much I do remember because 9-3, man, you lost 3 games in a season. That was a pretty serious deal.
Yeah. Very serious.
Yeah, and you end up being here 11 years, and your worst season was 9-3?
Well, my worst season since coming in as a freshman was 9-3.
Wow.
1973.
Think about that, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope people are listening because I had an experience once, and this is kind of a little off topic, but we'll get back to your coaching career. I was actually traveling. And I was in the airport, and I had a Nebraska polo on with a red N on it. Usually when I travel, I wear Nebraska gear because I'm very proud of the fact that I played for Nebraska. And I saw this little kid. He was like probably 10 years old, and he kept looking at my shirt, and then he'd look at his mom. He'd look at my shirt, then he'd look at his mom. And, I mean, he was no further than 3 or 4 feet away. And the little kid turned, I know he didn't mean any harm, but he turned and looked at his mom and he said, Mom, I didn't know Netflix had a polo.
Oh, no.
That hurt.
Heartbreak.
Yeah, that hurt.
That hurt.
I did, but I didn't hold it against the little kid because, he's 10. And
ooh, that hurt me.
Yeah. But what I did is, like, when I travel around the country speaking, I carry these cards. I had made football cards, but on the back, it has a nice positive message. But on the front, it has a picture of me playing for Nebraska. And so I gave the kid, I asked the mom, is it okay if I give him a souvenir? And she said, sure. So I gave him the card. And then that little light bulb came on. Oh, Nebraska. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's what the N stands for.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't let it go.
Oh, you had to.
Because, I mean, if you played here, especially, and I would say any time, but especially during the years that they were very successful, when Nebraska was like a national powerhouse.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of, no matter how old you get, you never let that go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to relive that era, but I'm very proud of the eras that I was playing.
Oh, it was a very, very special era.
Yeah. So now, Tony, you say the worst season was 9-3.
That was the worst record as a player, grad assistant, part-time coach, full-time coach at Nebraska.
Do you know how many people would love to have a 9-3 record?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, tell us some of the highlights. I mean, like 4 seasons. You had 11 seasons. During that 11 seasons, did y'all win any conference championships? Did you win any national championships?
You know, I can't keep track of the numbers, but we won 1 conference championship as a player.
Okay.
I know we won a few in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's crazy, you know. The only thing that made me jump up in my head was going after a national championship. So you have to understand, me personally, if we didn't win a national championship, and you know we played in about 4 or 5 of them.
Right,
We had opportunity every year to get
Oh,
one.
absolutely.
In my head, it was a failure in my head. But we won, we won 2 national championships.
Oh, okay.
And we hit a stretch there where we went to the Orange Bowl, I want to say 5 years in a row. And we lost to Florida State at one point in the national championship game. We came back and beat Miami. That was my highlight. Beating Miami for that first national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll go back and tell you why. My senior year in high school, Jersey City, New Jersey, game of the century.
Oh, yes.
1972.
Yes.
Fall of 1972. We graduated in 73. We were watching Nebraska, Oklahoma, and a guy from Jersey City, New Jersey by the name of Rich Glover. Lighting
big
Oklahoma
shout out.
up.
I think that dude had like 20
22.
Yeah, 20-something tackles.
Yeah.
Like, man, this dude is everywhere. And he was playing what, nose guard?
Nose guard. And all us Jersey City boys were looking at this, and I mean, that was the talk of the town.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I'm now getting recruited by Nebraska at this point.
So, you hyped.
and we just came off an undefeated season in high school.
Oh.
We had a whip.
Okay. Gotcha.
And we're coming off of that. And so I'm in my head, I mean, we're getting recruited by other schools, but I'm looking at that, I'm thinking.
That might be the spot.
That might be a spot. Got Jersey City there already.
Yeah.
All the positives. And, we went undefeated. If we can do that again, I'd love that.
Yeah.
And so I'm bringing that up to say one of the reasons I came to Nebraska in my youthful age of 17, I thought I was just go up there and get some more championships.
Correct.
Go undefeated, kill everybody, and that life's good.
Yeah.
So from 1973, I had to wait till 20 years later to finally see that thing come to fruition.
So your first national championship was 94?
Well, we beat, the 94, it's 93-94 run.
Yeah.
When we beat Miami in the Orange Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah. But the year before was also a low point for me because Florida State with Charlie Ward and that bunch beat us in that same stadium.
Yes. Yeah.
To win the national championship or take it from us, in my mind.
So that was a 93. You guys could have had like 3 in a row.
Could have had 3 in a row. Really could have had 4 in a row because the 96 run, my last season here, we lost to Texas in the first Big 12 championship game.
Gotcha. Yeah. I remember.
And we had just come off a great win against Colorado, and we were going down there. We win the Big 12 championship. We have a chance at another national championship. And we didn't make that happen. Texas had a great team, and we had a great team too, but, we won't get into all the details.
Yeah,
but we didn't make it.
Right. Well, I know about coming up short. We went for 2, so I know.
And I was gone at that time. I had just left, and I watched that thing on TV.
We had a shot, but I'm still proud of the fact that we had the courage to go for it. So I don't hold I hold my head high when people remind me of it.
I was watching it on TV and being part of the system for all those years.
Yeah.
We had a crowd watching the game. Everybody said, we're just going to go. No, he's not going for 1. He's not tying the game.
Yeah, no. We didn't go down.
Is not
yeah,
tying
we didn't go down at the time. No, that wasn't part of the
game.
No.
We don't do that.
No. Yeah. No, we don't care. We are playing on your home field. We're going for the win. Because that's the way we left Lincoln with the mindset.
Yeah.
And you can relate to this. usually when we boarded the plane to go to a away game, in our minds, we already won the game. We just don't know about how many points.
Yeah.
So, I can definitely relate. Now, after you left Nebraska, you said 96?
Yeah, 96 was my last season, and my first job, I went down to New Mexico State University as a head coach.
That was your first head?
That was my first head job.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what was that like? Because you done went from grad assistant. Well, you went from, it's a lot further back than that, but I'm just trying to keep it in perspective. You start off as a GA, and now you're head coach.
Yeah.
But all that training and all that sitting in back of rooms.
All that.
Came back to play.
I was a full-blown sponge for a long time.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I was around some supreme coaches.
Yes.
I learned from the best.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, when I say the best, I picked all of their brains. Some of them didn't even know I was studying them.
Yeah.
But I picked all of their brains.
But when you went to New Mexico, there wasn't no powerhouse.
No. When we took over there, the season before, they were 1-10.
That's what I remember. I'm thinking, man, you took a challenge.
Yeah. But, my approach wasn't, I wasn't looking to be a big riser and become some immortal college football coach or anything like that. I'm the son of a nurse.
Gotcha.
And she lived her life in service.
Right. Gotcha.
And what you're talking about, I was in service all the time. You've known me. I just never articulated it that way.
Yeah. Well, it showed though.
And so when I went down there, in my mind, we're going to go down there and we'll get it done. But I know there's a whole lot of people down there. We get our own team and we can create the way we wanted it to be and develop them and teach the old game of life, which to me, my game of life is probably different than other people's perspectives, but I never try to change their minds. I just try to show them some of the root points that are necessary to make it in the game of life.
Gotcha.
And we had a great staff. 99.9% of my staff, I know you know where they came from.
Yeah. You
all Nebraska.
Yeah,
guys.
you was handpicking them. Yep, I remember that.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: how long were you at New Mexico?
8 seasons.
8 seasons.
8 seasons.
Did you have any success there?
For success there is different.
Oh, okay.
So we took our lumps the first 2-3 years, and ironically, if you remember that 96 season, Arizona State upset us. So we went to the Fiesta Bowl, beat Florida in January. I go down to New Mexico State, and my first game as a head coach is at Arizona State.
Oh, wow.
And there's articles in the paper. They say, well, maybe we should run the score up on him like they did it on us 2 years before. I'm like,
hey, man.
I'm not in that.
Yeah.
But, I was a Cornhusker, and that's all they saw.
Yeah, right.
And they beat the sleeves off of us. Another one of my big highlights was 3 years later, we came back to Arizona State, and we beat the sleeves off of them. 35-7.
Okay. That competitive nature still exists.
And one of my best friends was a track guy, and he was a AD. He was assistant AD, later on became an athletic director. And so after they beat us up, old track man, great athlete, great runner. And I said, well, we'd be back, right? You're on our schedule down the road. I'm coming back, And we beat the sleeves off him. So that's another one of my main highlights.
Okay.
We had, I remember the first year we went 6-5. And we, back in those days, they still do it. Our program, similar to that, you had to play those money games.
Yes.
So, we'd go play Georgia and South Carolina and Texas and, 2 or 3 of those a season. So, needless to say, we didn't go into conference play undefeated.
You had to go make them business moves.
Get that package.
But, hey, Tony, Coach Sams, I got to get to this part. Kind of give me, from New Mexico, kind of all the way up to the end. What was that like for you?
Oh, there was a lot of value to it. I felt as a head coach, I had more say in the makeup, the personality of the team, the little things that will help a guy make it. We didn't have the big money of a Nebraska program or Big Ten or Big 8 or Pac-10. We didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah, you had to take the games.
We had to take the games. We had to find ways for them to survive the summer. We didn't have meals for them all the time in the summer.
Yeah,
we had to have jobs. We didn't have Lincoln parents.
We
didn't have, and so in a lot of cases, the coaches, we became the so-called Lincoln parents.
Right.
We would be I always could throw down on the grill.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'd load the grill up, and a bunch of them would come over. Different coaches did the same for their guys.
Right.
The receiver coach took his guys a couple times in the summer, made sure that at least they had a couple good meals every few times in the summer.
Right.
I'd do a few big ones. Every coach did that. We did the one-on-ones. We did everything. So it was a little bit more fulfilling for me because now I had full access to every single player. And my personality didn't change. I had an open door policy, just like Coach Osborne did.
Yeah.
With the players, I'd stop a meeting. If a player walked by, I'd stop a meeting. And we'd talk for a few minutes, then we go back with our meeting.
Right.
So I had much more control, which gave me, I felt a little more power to help all of them through me.
Well, Coach, now after you left New Mexico State, you had a couple of more opportunities. Is that correct?
Yeah, I left New Mexico State, and interesting enough, all the way back then, I was thinking about, I need to write a book.
Huh. Gotcha.
And so I said I was going to take a year off. And here comes Charlie again. Hey, the guy at Purdue is looking for a defensive end coach.
Oh. So,
and there I went.
Back in coaching.
Went back to the defensive ends, no less.
Wow.
And I inherited some guys,
At Purdue.
Yeah, I had a 3-man rotation coaching the defensive ends, and all of them went to the NFL.
Wow. Okay.
And one of them is a guy by the name of Rob Ninkovich.
Huh.
Had a full-blown career. He run how many Super Bowls did he win? I think they won 3. He was with the Patriots.
Okay.
And so we were right back at it. And I stayed there one season. I didn't even stay the whole year. And strangely enough, there was some sort of unfinished thought process as a head coach. I really felt I had more leverage on helping more people, and I had more access. So I stayed one season, and Southeast Missouri State, which is a 1AA football program, had an opening, head football coach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they called me and asked me if I wanted to interview. Yeah, we'll go look. And the rest is history. I was there 8 years.
Wow.
And their setup was actually worse than New Mexico State's when I went in there.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was the beauty of the challenge.
Yeah, well,
I enjoyed
I can see that because just with your personality type, I can see that, it wasn't so much the challenge, it was the opportunity. It was an opportunity
for me to do what I like to do, the way I like to do it. And don't forget, I also brought my Nebraska guys along with me again.
Yeah.
And in both cases, both places I was a head football coach, those guys on the staffs were really, really good, and they all got really big college football careers out of it.
Right. Yeah. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Now, what happened after you left Missouri?
Well, again, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to write this book again. I kept worried about the book. And, there's a time you helped me with this book business.
Exactly.
And so I took a year off, moved to Atlanta.
Okay.
And loved Atlanta. We went there in the spring, I think it was, so I was fine. Went through the summer, I was fine. Come July,
got that itch.
That's a bad itch, boy.
That itch. Yeah.
So now I said, let me go watch the Falcons at practice. I wasn't trying to coach in the NFL, nothing like that. I just wanted to go and just get the field, smell the grass, watch watch the pads pop in the fall camp. And so I went there once, and then I went down there and I started watching Georgia Tech football games because that Atlanta Metro has a lot of football.
Yes, it does.
And then there's an area down there for high school called Gwinnett County, world famous or America famous for putting out absolutely top football talent. You know, matter of fact, there's a big argument. You get the Georgia and the Texas guys together.
Yeah.
And you know what that argument is.
Already. It's always,
Who's the best?
Yeah.
Who's the best?
Well, you know, and just to be honest with you, just the South period produces quite a few athletes. But,
Absolutely.
But Texas got this little thing about everything is bigger in Texas.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of fed into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I know. But go ahead, Coach. I'm listening.
So that Gwinnett County, I started going to games, and I'm enjoying myself. Same old stuff. You know, I've always liked the Eagles perch. You know, you stand way back, and nobody's watching you, but you're seeing everybody. So I'm watching these games, and then I'm always standing to watch them. I wouldn't sit in the stands. I stand up in the back somewhere and get a good look.
Yeah. You like the eye in the sky.
Yeah.
I got you.
And then parents and all this, you know, the dads, you know, they got their group, their kids playing, and they're watching, and they're over there, and I'm eavesdropping, and then so you scouting? No, I'm not scouting. You look like you know what you're looking at. That kind of thing. And so then I started meeting the same guys at different games and all that. And so now I'm in. I'm getting the juice of the football again. And I had a friend that was a head coach over there at Georgia State. They had just started football. And he asked me to go and watch a practice or two. So I dropped in on him, watch practice. You know, you had that little fish hook out.
Yeah.
You know.
I got you.
Yeah. So I went and watched a couple practices, really impressed with the talent for a team that just started football. And then he asked me to go to a couple games. He said, go down there a couple games, take some notes. Just beat me up if you have to. I have no shame. I just want to hear your thoughts. I'm not going to take any of it personal. So I wrote notes, and you know, if you're gonna write notes, you're a coach, you're gonna write notes.
Yeah, right.
And so I handed him the notes a few times, and I was done with that. Watched about 3 or 4 of his games, and then come spring ball, I get a phone call on a Friday. He said, I lost my defensive line coach. Okay, well,
not go that
right? Yeah. He said, oh, come on through. And, you know, I said, I'll help you. Spring ball started that Monday. I said, I'll come and help. And, you know. And I went back from Friday being retired almost 2 years to coaching the defensive line in a weekend. I go back out there.
Wow.
And I coached down there for 1 year. We went to the first bowl game in school history.
Huh.
And then I had a friend ask me to call the guys at UNLV. Barney Cotton was down there. John Garrison. Tony Sanchez played at New Mexico State.
Right.
He was the head coach. And I'm talking to Barney. He said, well, I'll talk to Tony. So Tony calls me. I said, yeah, let me tell you about this guy. And there's crickets on the phone. I said, what's going on, man? Well, you know, T, you still like the desert?
So now here we go again.
Long story short, I ended up coaching down there for 5 years.
At UNLV?
At UNLV.
Wow.
And then I finally retired in 2020. Not going back this time.
Okay, well, so you say.
Yeah. No, this one, I'm done this time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You know, T. Sam, I know you now. You know.
Oh, yeah. I know you know.
Yeah, the right opportunity comes, you might show up.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to interview you, because you are like a big brother to me. And I've always looked up to you from the time I met you until today. And every time I come to Vegas, you always treat me like royalty. So I got to show love for that. I want everybody to understand something. This conversation with my big brother today was basically an opportunity for y'all to get to know what I know. And I always encourage everybody to please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button, because we're trying to get this message out. And the message is life, but we got to make the best out of it while we got it. Because as I've said so many times, Father Time is undefeated. And Again, man, I'm sorry for your loss. I just want to make sure I say that. But in a way, it gave me an opportunity to see you again. And I'm already plotting my next trip. So I will be on your balcony again.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Now, I'm going to tell you this, though. Not riding no bicycle on 24 miles. I'm going to tell you that now. So
well, yeah. I'll leave you. I'll give you a break on that.
Yeah, okay. I was if you see me running, you run. There's something bad happening. But no, again, man, thank you for everything. And I really like to wrap the show up the same way every week. Every day you're blessed to see, you got to look like somebody, and you got to do that for yourself. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.